So in this practice set, we are going to be looking specifically at how to find the surface area and the lateral surface area. Now for this first problem, we're given a triangular prism. Now what we need to keep in mind is even though the triangular prism is laid out in this direction in the graphic, we want to keep in mind that the triangle is the base. It's a triangular prism. So the triangle is the base of the shape. And that's important because when we're looking at the perimeter, we need to get the perimeter of the triangle. When we're getting the area of the base, we need the area of the triangle. So the way this problem is laid out, even the way the shape is laid out, can be a little bit misleading because normally when you think of base, intuitively you think of the bottom. Well, the bottom of this shape, as it's laying right now, is a rectangle, but it's not a rectangular prism, it's a triangular prism. So keep that in mind because as we're going through here, we're going to have to use the triangle as our base. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So it doesn't matter which section we tackle, really, but we're going to have to break this formula into two parts. We're going to have to find basically the lateral surface area and then add it to the base twice. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start with the base just because. So remember, for the base of the triangle, it's 1/2 the I'm just going to do length times height. I don't want to do little b because I don't want to confuse. So So in this case, we're given this information here in the triangle. That's the portion that's closest to us, and it's just a matter of plugging those values in. So our length is 4. Our height is 1.5. Multiply that out. 4 divided by 2 gives us 2, and then 2 times 1.5 gives us 3. So our base is 3, and all of these are in inches. I didn't put the labels on here because I didn't want to use room on the board, but I am going to put it on my answer here. So remember, base is in square units, so our base, the area of our base, is 3 square inches. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and rewrite our formula, and I'm going to go ahead and plug that value in. Okay, now we've got to find our lateral surface area. So remember, that lateral surface area, this perimeter times height, we're given the height, but it's in kind of a weird spot. So the height is this 9.6 right here, because remember, this is a triangular prism. So it's almost better to think of this as flipped up this way with the triangular base, because what you don't want to do is accidentally put 1.5 for your height. All right, 9.6 is our height here. All right, and now we've got to find the perimeter of this triangle. So we're given the length of this side here. Because of this right angle, we know that this side and this side are of equal length. So I'm going to go ahead and label that side as well. So for our perimeter for our triangle, we have 2.5 plus, well, I'll just write it out. So we've got 2.5 plus 2.5 plus 4. So our perimeter is 9. 2.5 plus 2.5 is 5, plus 4 more is 9. And then we're going to multiply that times our height, which is 9.6. And my mental math skills are not sharp enough to do that without looking here. So that's going to be 86.4 for our lateral surface area. Remember, that's in square inches. All right, so then I'm going to plug this back in, 86.4, and then add that to this. So that should be 92.4 square inches. So for this problem, we are again finding total surface area. In this case, though, we have a rectangular prism. Now, the nice thing about a rectangular prism is, for this one specifically, since it's rectangles on all sides, it doesn't matter what you choose as the base. I'm actually going to choose the smaller values for the base, but you'll get the same answer regardless. Now, the reason why I'm going to use the smaller values for the base is because I'm going to be using those numbers a lot more. Since I use 25 as my height, the only time I'm going to use 25 is when I plug it into the height here to multiply by the perimeter. So I would rather work with the 4.5 and the 3 than I would the 25 over and over and over again. That way my number stays smaller until I get to my final answer. All right, so I'm going to once again start with the area of the base. It doesn't really matter. You can start with the lateral surface area if you want to, but I'm going to go ahead and just start with the base. So the area of my base is just length times width. And so 3 times 4.5, so I get 13.5. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. And now I just need to find my lateral surface area. So for my lateral surface area, we've got the perimeter, which is 3 plus 3. Because remember, I got 3 up here too. I'm going to go and write that down just so I don't forget. Plus 4.5 plus 4.5. So I know 4.5 and 4.5 is 9. 3 and 3 is 6. 9 plus 6 will give me 15. And then I'll do 15 times 25, which gives me 375 for my lateral surface area. And then I'm just going to add that to 27, because 13.5 times 2 is 27. And I should get 402 square centimeters. So for this problem, we are only finding lateral surface area. We're not looking for the total surface area for these last two. So it's just a matter of finding the perimeter of our base and then multiplying that by the height. Now again, you've got to be careful with these triangular prisms when they're laid flat on this rectangular side. Remember, the base is the triangle. It's a triangular prism. How do we know it's a triangular prism? Because there's a triangle in it. All right, so with a rectangular prism, it's not so rigid because there's rectangles on all of the faces, where in this case, you only have the triangle on the two opposing faces, and they are the base. All right, so remember, when we're finding the perimeter, we're finding the perimeter of this triangular base and then multiplying it by the height. All right, so our perimeter is 6 plus 5 plus 5, just these three sides of this triangle, which is 16. And then our height is 8. And again, don't get confused, because this is not the height for this particular shape. The height is this particular side right here. It's really better if you think of this as being stood up on top of the triangle. All right, and then it's just a matter of multiplying 16 by 8, which I'm going to use the calculator on. And we get 128. And these units for this is centimeters, so centimeters squared. So for this problem, we are asked to find the lateral surface area for a cylinder. Now, we're going to have to make a slight alteration to our lateral surface area formula, because our perimeter, in this case, is the perimeter of a circle, which has its own formula. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this as S equals, and I'm going to go ahead and write 2 pi r times height. Now, the reason why I'm writing it as 2 pi r instead of pi times diameter is we're not given a diameter. We're given the radius. So if you're given a diameter, if you wanted to write it as diameter times pi times height, you absolutely could. and that's a fine way to do it if you're given the diameter. In this case, we aren't given the diameter, so I'm going to write it as 2 pi r just so that I remember that our circumference is the diameter, or in this case, 2 times the radius, times pi. All right, our radius is 10.66 millimeters. So 2, and I'm going to go ahead and, well, I'll just write it as pi. 2 pi times 10.6 times 37. Now, because I have no exponents in this, I can just multiply straight across. All right, so hopefully you got 2,463 or something pretty close to it, square millimeters. Now, because we're dealing with pi, you may get an answer that's slightly different. Because when I keyed this into a calculator, I just keyed it in as 3.14 because I don't have a pi function on the calculator I'm using. If you have pi on your calculator, you may have gotten a slightly different answer. Probably would have been pretty close though.